Hello friends, so excited today. I have a new palette and I actually already opened it, but let me just show it to you here. It is the Lightwish palette. Like, even look at the box. How pretty is that? I always look at things as far as you know, if you followed me, I love aesthetics of things. But the bonus here is Lightwish is a part of Paul Rubens. And one of the reasons I love Paul Rubens is not only for how beautiful their paints are, but I love the thought they put into their packaging. Excuse me. So this one is their 48 color set. And look at the colors. Wow, wow, wow. These are all my favorite colors. I did swatch them out, and I'll tell you, there's 48 colors. 39 of these, you guys, are single pigment, which is really great because, and don't mind my little messes, these are the colors. I had a couple, not even going to tell you what happened there, but so I had to put the colors over to the side. But look at the browns, the greens, the purples. Look at the oranges and yellows. I am in love with this palette. Truly, for Lightwish, these are artist grade. They're about $1 a pan. So this set is about $48. You get as well this really cool brush. It's like a mop brush, but look at the point. That is incredible, you guys. So I'm going to show you a little bit what this brush can do because I'm really having fun with it. And just some of these beautiful colors they put in this set. So let me do this first. What I'm going to do, and you can definitely use this palette to mix your paints in. What I typically do, if I'm going to do that, is I will rough this up with either some toothpaste or a very fine grade sandpaper. But let's just give our paints a spritz here. And we're gonna paint some flowers. All right, I wanna show you what this brush can do. This thing soaks up the water like you can't believe. So, keep that in mind. When you're painting, you're really going to have to be careful of water control. But it is a fun brush, you guys. You could do washes. Let me just show you some of the things this brush does. So number one, like I said, it soaks up the water, and that point, wow, unbelievable. So I'm going to let's just go into this blue. I believe this one is the French ultramarine, they're calling it, but watch the little fine line I can get with this. So I'm holding it fairly close up to the ferrule. I prop my hand on my paper because I'm not one of those that can hover. I have a lot of matcha tea in the morning, guys, and that doesn't work for me. All right, let's do, this line is so fine, I don't even know if you can see it. So this brush is great. I love a multi-purpose brush. If I can get a brush that I can do both thick and thin lines, washes, like, wow, that is cool to me. So let me do this again. Look at these thin lines. Really easy to control. I mean, if you hold it straight up and down and only light pressure for those thin lines, look at what you can do. Now, the other brush stroke that this is great for, let me add a tiny bit more water here, is that compound stroke, which we use for leaves and petals. So point, press. I mean, if I really press, look at the thick line I can get. That is incredible. Let me show you that again because I didn't really have enough paint in there. So, I mean, this is incredible, you guys. Thin, micro thin line. As I keep putting pressure, look, opening up that belly. I mean, I could do a wash with this. Look at that thin line. How amazing is that? With one brush, you can get both. So let's use this for some petals. I'm going to use, because I'm a little bit curious about a couple of the colors in here. Other little tip is whenever you're using like a mop type brush, what I do, I wash, I rinse. When I rinse, instead of drying it on my towel, because this thing is going to soak up so much water, I will go like this and kind of squeeze out that extra water, because otherwise you're going to totally, completely saturate your towel. So just a little tip there. But the color I'm really curious about is this turquoise deep and turquoise light. So let's just play with that a bit. I'm going to first grab the turquoise light. So that's this color. Look at that. It's like a pastel blue. So let's just play with that a little bit. I'm loading up my brush, and boy, talk about preserving that tip. I am making sure I am not going in with the tip of my brush because I do not want to lose that beautiful little point. So let's go in here, and we're just going to, I'll draw in the center here. Let me grab a pen just so I can have a little bit of a guideline. Sorry for that camera shake. Here's maybe another little. So that's where I'm going to be coming out with my petals. I think this might be an Ohuhu marker, by the way, in case you ask me. So, let's do the guidelines as well. So we'll just do, let's just do a 5 petal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know I like my guidelines. Okay, so I've got that beautiful light turquoise on here, which is kind of funny because I don't really see it as a turquoise, but that's what they're calling it. So point, now, applying pressure, spin my brush around, point, press, look at that beautiful petal. So I'm going to work a little quick here because I want to go into the center with some darker colors too. Point, press, and I could actually just come down like that. A little bit more. I'm going to go in here actually because it's quite dry in my studio this morning because I've got my heater on. So I'm going to go in after this one. Point, press, flip around. Now I'm going to go into that darker turquoise. They're calling it a deep turquoise. So I'll get that on my point. Look how fun this color is. Okay, so see, it's already drying here in my studio because, and this is something I'm glad is happening right now, because sometimes depending on if you have a fan on, or for me, I've got my little heater going behind me, it can really make a difference in your paint. So I'm going to help this a little. So I'm going to pull that out a bit. I mean, this dried really, really quickly. So I'm just pulling out with somewhat of a dry brush. Not dry, but like damp. Look at that beautiful color. Ooh, I was not sure about this color, but you know what? Look at that. It's beautiful. Let's try it in the reverse. So I'm going to dip my brush in some paint, go into my palette with the side of my brush, and let's start with those dots first. So dot, 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 because I think that might spread a little better that it's so dry in my studio here. But look at these paints, you guys. Aren't they gorgeous? I'm telling you, the Paul Rubens set, this is their Lightwish series. You guys got to try it out for the quality. They are so creamy and transparent. I just love them. I love their My Lang set too. So let's go in here, point. Now that blue might have already dried. Again, I'm glad this is happening because I want you to see how climate can really affect your watercolors. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker here, so it's a little bit more proportionate. And then I'll have to go in again in the center here, and now I can pull that out. So rinse my brush, squeeze it out and make that point. And let's pull some of that out. Ooh, look at that. And that is the beauty of that tip. Let me just get close here because look at those fine lines. I am sorry, I just hit my camera because I've got it down so low. Look at that. Look at the beautiful thin lines you can get. Now, let me raise back up a bit and let's go in with their turquoise. So I think I'll go into the middle. Let's try, look at, they always have the best blues. Peacock blue, sea blue, oh my gosh. I get so excited because I love those blues. So let me find those colors here. I think it's this one. So I'm just gonna load up my brush and let's go right into the middle. Now again, it's kind of drawing, so I'm just gonna help it out. I am so lightly touching this paper, but I really wanted to show you how you can get this wide, thick line, but yet look at the details you can get. That is a great brush. I love that. Let's go in now with some of their greens. They have a lot of beautiful greens in this palette. So let's go in with, they've got that beautiful yellow green I love. They've got a permanent green, a hooker's green, an olive green, all kind. Look at this one, malachite green. Let's start first with that yellow green because I just love that color. I'm actually mixing it with just a touch of the permanent green. Point, press. Ooh, that is one bright green, you guys. Just like that. Let's go in for a little darker. So I'm just gonna load my brush up with the next one, which I believe this one is the tree green. We all love that tree green. And we'll do this other flower here too. So I'll bring this down just like that. There we go. I'm adding some of that tree green. And before I get too far, let's go ahead and play with those blues again. So let me rinse my brush really well. Make sure you've got that wash water and your rinse water. And look at this, if I can set this here. Tons of water is going to come out because this is like a mop brush. So you really want to make sure you're dabbing it and squeezing it out a bit in your palette. Let's start with that light blue again. They're calling it light turquoise, turquoise light, I think it is. And let's do we'll do a couple petals, point press, like that, point press. And now while that's still wet, I'm gonna go in with the darker turquoise and maybe even some of that other one. And let's go in here. Gosh, I'm gonna have to turn off my heater because this is not flowing. But see how that happens? So, you know, that's why you be nice to yourself, because sometimes the fact that your paints may not be blending may not even be yourself. I'm gonna turn off my heater because I think it's really affecting my drying time. I'm gonna go in there now with some of that turquoise right in the middle and see if that will spread. Yeah, see, it is so dry in my office right now. It really isn't, but that's okay. Let's play with that. So I'm just going to pull it out. Look at the little fine details. Rinse my brush, get all of that darker turquoise out. That's why it's so important to rinse your brush, because I want to be able to pick up that lighter turquoise. So let's grab that light turquoise, do a few more petals here, point press, opening up that brush, point press, there we go. Turn my paper here, point press, point press. That is really this soft baby blue. I'm really liking that color. Normally I would have to mix that color. And then I'll go into that beautiful turquoise, just dot that in, and now we can pull that out. There we go. I just love that this brush can get such a fine, beautiful little line. There we go. So pretty. And then we'll go into the center with maybe, I don't know, maybe a brown or a little bit of yellow. So let's do that here. I think I'll start with the yellow. So I've got some cad yellow here. Just go into the center, and then once that dries, I'll go into that with maybe a dark brown. Rinse my brush, squeeze it out a bit, get that nice point, and let's go ahead and do some fun leaves and things. So we've got such a pretty blue here. Let's go into a little darker green. See what that does. Ooh, see, it just warms it up. That's why it's important to play with your cool greens, with your dark greens, and really have some fun experimenting. So I think I'll go in, let's see. There we go. Now I went back to that sap green, but I've got a little bit of the olive green on there, which I love mixing my colors. There we go. Oops, I'm so sorry. It looks like I might have cut off the bottom there a little bit. Pointing my leaves in different directions. And then I'm gonna have a little bud here. I feel like I need something on this side, and I like this whole zigzag thing. So let's do that. We'll make a small bud here. There we go. And maybe one up here. There we go. And now let's go in, wash, rinse our brush, pick up some of that green. And some more green here. Nice thin lines. Just using that tip, and look how pretty. I feel like I want to go in the center of those and just add a tiny bit of brown. I love bringing a brown in. I think it's really pretty. Let's see, which brown should we do? I always like my burned brown, my Van Dyke browns. So I think I will go for that. Making sure I'm not going in with that point. And oops, I've got some water there. And let's just draw. This almost looks like an anemone, doesn't it? I always have a hard time saying that word. There you go. So I hope you will check out this palette. I'm going to be doing some more paintings with this because I'm really having fun with this palette. I love the colors. It reminds me a lot of the Paul Rubens set. I've showed you previously this one that is also beautiful. It even, let me show you this real quick. It even comes with that little rag that I love that's real soft. So there you go. I hope you'll give this a try. Use those guidelines. Check out this palette. It's just beautiful colors, so creamy. If you want maybe just a step up from the My Lang, you know, those are my other favorites, but not quite ready to make the $80 investment to the Paul Rubens Professional palette, but these do have great light fastness. They've got that translucency, single pigments. I think you'll be really, really happy with this. All right, everybody, happy painting, and I will see you soon.